Sweetheart, you're just being paranoid. My father's voice, heavy with a disappointment that felt like a physical weight, dismissed me. Sandra's a nurse, for heaven's sake. What possible reason could she have to harm you? I lay in the sterile confines of a hospital bed, my vision a watercolor haze, my stomach a fiery inferno. This pain was no ordinary food poisoning, no matter how adamantly everyone insisted otherwise. My name is Emma Mitchell. At 28, I was fighting for my life, yet my own family stood as fervent defenders of the woman who had systematically, maliciously, placed me here. It started 3 months ago, when my father married Sandra, a pediatric nurse he'd met at a charity event. She was everything he thought he needed after Mom's death, a shimmering beacon of charm, sophistication, and youth, 15 years his junior, yet perfectly suited, or so he believed, to fill the void. From the moment she entered our lives, a discordant note resonated within me. But her seemingly flawless smile and meticulously crafted caring demeanor cast a spell, enchanting everyone else into blind adoration. The first incident happened during a family dinner at their newly shared house. A subtle, acrid bitterness tainted my morning coffee, but I dismissed it as an oddity. Within hours, my body convulsed in violent illness. Must be a stomach bug, Sandra had purred, her concern a performance of pristine perfection. I'll take care of you. That's what nurses do, after all. The episodes became a chilling pattern, a macabre ritual always following a meal or drink Sandra had personally prepared, always when no other eyes were upon us. With each successive incident, my symptoms intensified, more insidious, more debilitating. And each time, my frantic protests were met with dismissive eye rolls, my pleas twisted into accusations of unfounded jealousy. Emma, honey, Sandra would coo, her voice a syrupy confection of false sympathy. Perhaps you should consider therapy for these paranoid thoughts. It's simply not healthy to be so suspicious, dear. Last night, however, broke the chilling rhythm. Through barely slit eyelids, I witnessed her carefully, almost imperceptibly, slip something into my water glass, believing me oblivious. But I wasn't. For weeks, I had been a silent sentinel, observing her every move with the keen vigilance of a hawk. I feigned a casual sip, but even that minuscule intake was enough. Within minutes, an icy vice gripped my throat, stealing my breath. Now, tethered to the machines in the sterile confines of the ICU, the muffled echoes of their argument drifted from the hallway. Dad, I rasped, my voice barely a thread, as he finally sat beside my bed. She tried to kill me. I saw her put something in my drink. Emma, stop this, he snapped, his voice sharp with frustration and denial. Sandra has been nothing but devoted to you. She's worried sick. The doctors confirm it's severe food poisoning. Why are you trying to tear our family apart? I turned away, tears streaming down my face, the incessant beeping of the monitors filling the silence between us. What he couldn't comprehend, what none of them knew, was that in the fleeting moments before darkness claimed me last night, I had desperately managed to text my best friend, Kate, a shrewd laboratory technician right here at the hospital. Please, I'd pleaded, test everything. Don't let them dismiss this. And Kate, my steadfast anchor, had delivered. While my father and others hovered solicitously around Sandra, comforting her through her meticulously rehearsed, theatrical tears, Kate had quietly, relentlessly, set wheels in motion. She'd bypassed the initial dismissals, ordering comprehensive toxicology screens, and subtly persuaded the emergency room doctor to meticulously document every symptom, every anomalous test result. Your daughter exhibits clear markers of long-term poisoning, I heard Dr. Martinez's calm, authoritative voice explain to my father in the hallway. We're awaiting detailed blood work results. That's utterly preposterous. Sandra interjected, materializing beside them with practiced suddenness. I'm a nurse. I would have noticed anything amiss. It's obviously just severe food poisoning. Perhaps she simply has a rather sensitive stomach. I watched through the glass, her hand resting like a silken trap on my father's arm. He visibly relaxed, melting into her touch, already discarding the doctor's urgent concerns. The flawless wife. The compassionate nurse. She sculpted her persona with an artist's precision. But she hadn't accounted for Kate. She didn't know about the critical samples being fast-tracked through the lab. She didn't realize that with every insidious dose, my body had been meticulously keeping score, a living archive of her malevolence in my very tissues and blood. "I think we should transfer Emma to a different hospital," Sandra suggested, her tone sugary and solicitous. "My esteemed colleague at Metro General would be delighted to take her case." My heart rate immediately spiked, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. She was trying to whisk me away, to bury the truth before the damning test results surfaced, before her meticulously constructed facade inevitably shattered. "That won't be necessary," Dr. Martinez said firmly, her voice leaving no room for argument. "We have all the equipment we need right here." I closed my eyes, feigning sleep. As Sandra glided into my room, I felt her oppressive presence, the soft whisper of her footsteps nearing my bed. "Oh, Emma," she sighed, a dramatic exhalation clearly meant for any passerby. "I wish she'd cease this attention-seeking behavior. It's simply so hard on your poor father." The vital monitors registered the frantic acceleration of my heart rate, but no one saw the veiled menace beneath her feigned compassion. No one but me. As she finally departed, I fumbled for my phone with trembling hands, texting Kate, "How much longer for the results?" Her reply made my breath catch in my throat. "Tomorrow morning." "Hold on. We've got her." I stared at the sterile ceiling, meticulously counting the agonizing hours. Tomorrow could not arrive swiftly enough. Sandra, in her deluded arrogance, had no inkling that her perfect crime was on the precipice of unraveling, that her carefully curated role as the compassionate nurse was about to twist into something profoundly, terrifyingly darker. Outside my room, I could hear my father still consoling Sandra, apologizing for his troubled daughter's accusations. Soon, he would learn just how terribly wrong he was about everything. The night stretched ahead, punctuated by the rhythmic beeping of monitors and hourly vital checks. Each time a nurse I didn't know or trust entered, I watched them carefully, acutely aware Sandra might attempt something more desperate. But for now, all I could do was wait, clinging to the knowledge that somewhere deep within the hospital's laboratory, the truth was finally coming to light. The morning exploded into a cacophony of raised voices in the hallway, Dr. Martinez's sharp, clinical tones slicing through Sandra's theatrical, rehearsed sobs. "These levels are simply impossible for food poisoning," the doctor declared, his voice ringing with scientific certainty. "The toxicology report reveals significant, cumulative amounts of antifreeze compounds and powerful prescription medications in her system, built up over months." "That's utterly absurd." Sandra's voice cracked with a theatrical precision that belied her terror. "I'm a nurse. I would never." "A nurse," Kate interjected, her voice cutting, steady, "who would have ready access to such medications. The blood work clearly shows a pattern of systematic poisoning, not a single, isolated incident." I pressed the call button and within moments, Dr. Martinez entered my room, followed by Kate, my father, and Sandra. The sight of my father's face twisted my heart, a maelstrom of confusion, disbelief, and the first, dawning horror of a terrible realization. "Emma," Dr. Martinez began, her gaze unwavering. "We have your test results. The toxicology report shows." "This is ridiculous," Sandra shrieked, cutting her off. "She's obviously been doing this to herself to frame me. She's been jealous since day one." My father's face paled further. "Self-poisoning? Emma, would you, truly?" "The pattern of poisoning," Kate interjected firmly, "corresponds exactly with family dinners and visits to your house. We have meticulous documentation of each hospital admission, each mysterious illness. The concentrations in her tissue samples tell a clear, damning story." Sandra's perfect mask finally fractured, revealing the venom beneath. "You can't prove anything. I'm a respected medical professional. Who would believe?" "The police would," Dr. Martinez said quietly, "which is precisely why they are on their way." The transformation in Sandra was instantaneous and utterly terrifying. Her sympathetic smile twisted into a grotesque, malevolent sneer. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed at me, pure malice in her eyes. I tried to do this quietly, give you a dignified exit, but you just wouldn't die. My father stumbled backward, as if physically struck. Sandra, what are you saying? Your precious daughter, she spat, her gaze darting to him, standing in the way of everything. Do you know what your will says, David? Everything goes to her. Everything. I wouldn't get a penny. The room fell into a deathly silence, punctuated only by the steady beeping of the monitors. My father's face had gone from pale to ashen, then a ghostly white. You married me for money. Of course I did. Sandra cackled, a horrible, hollow sound devoid of mirth. You think I wanted a man twice my age? But your perfect little Emma had to ruin everything. Couldn't just get sick and die like she was supposed to. Two uniformed police officers materialized in the doorway, summoned by Kate's discreet, silent signal. Sandra's eyes darted wildly, like a cornered, rabid animal. Mrs. Mitchell, one officer began, his voice calm, authoritative. That's not my real name, Sandra snarled, a venomous edge to her voice. You think David was my first? Rich men with grown daughters are simply so delightfully vulnerable. As the officers advanced to apprehend her, Sandra, with a burst of desperate fury, lunged for my forestand. Kate, a blur of motion, intercepted her, her years of kickboxing training proving invaluable as she tackled Sandra to the ground. The officers swiftly restrained the thrashing, screaming woman, leading her away amidst a torrent of curses and baseless accusations. My father collapsed into the chair beside my bed, his head buried in his hands, body racked with shuddering sobs. Emma, he choked out, I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. My own daughter. I didn't believe you. I reached for his trembling hand, my anger battling with a profound compassion for the raw anguish etched across his face. You loved her, Dad, I murmured softly. She knew exactly how to weaponize that love. Kate and Dr. Martinez quietly left us alone, though I knew they'd be back soon with more questions, more tests, more documentation for the case against Sandra. I should have seen it, my father continued, his voice thick with self-reproach. The way she always insisted on preparing your drinks, how she volunteered to nurse you when you got sick. I thought she was being kind. She was good at her act, I said softly. That's how she got away with it before. His head snapped up. Before. Kate did some digging, I explained, my voice gentle. There are 2 other cases in different states. Rich men. Daughters who mysteriously died. She vanished before anyone could prove anything. My father's face crumpled anew, the full, crushing weight of his colossal mistake settling upon him. I brought her into our lives, he whispered, broken. I gave her the chance to hurt you. Dad, listen to me, I insisted, squeezing his hand. She fooled everyone. Seasoned doctors, experienced nurses, even her own colleagues. The only reason she didn't succeed this time was because Kate and Dr. Martinez were brave enough to believe me. Beyond the room, the hospital buzzed with activity, police officers interviewing stunned staff, meticulously collecting evidence, tirelessly building their case. Sandra's meticulously crafted, perfect plan had spectacularly unraveled, her grim history of similar crimes surfacing like malignant shadows as detectives delved deeper. How can I ever make this right? My father asked, looking utterly ravaged, older than I had ever seen him. Just believe me next time, I said, managing a fragile smile. And maybe let me pick your next girlfriend. He let out a wet, choked laugh, clutching my hand tighter. Our journey ahead was long, arduous, my physical recovery, his emotional healing, the delicate work of rebuilding shattered trust. But now, finally, we could begin, anchored by the truth, with Sandra's insidious, poisonous influence irrevocably excised from our lives. The monitors continued their steady rhythm, each beep a testament to my survival, each breath a silent, defiant proof of Sandra's failure. I was alive, and she, the orchestrator of slow death, would instead rot away, not from poison, but behind the cold, unforgiving bars where she truly belonged. 6 months after Sandra's arrest, I sat in the hushed courtroom, a silent observer as she stood for sentencing. The meticulously coiffed nurse, the captivating enchantress who had charmed all who met her, was gone. In her place stood a gaunt, bitter woman in a stark orange jumpsuit, her eyes burning with raw, undisguised hatred fixed solely on me. Based on the irrefutable evidence presented, the judge began, his voice resonating with gravitas, including the damning testimony of medical experts, the meticulously documented poisoning patterns, and the defendant's extensive history of similar crimes across multiple states. This court sentences Sandra Mitchell, also known as Sandra Pierce and Sandra Collins, to 25 years in state prison, without possibility of parole. The gavel struck a sharp, decisive crack, and Sandra's fractured mask shattered completely. "You think this is over?" she shrieked, her voice raw with unhinged fury as officers moved to lead her away. "There are others like me. Women who know exactly what to do with spoiled little rich girls like you." I felt my father's hand tighten around mine. We both had come a long way since that day in the hospital. Therapy, both individual and together, had helped us rebuild our relationship. The guilt he carried was slowly being replaced by a determination to make amends. Kate, sitting on my other side, squeezed my shoulder. "Let's get out of here," she said. "I think this calls for a celebration." We left the courthouse together, stepping into the bright autumn sunshine. My recovery had been slow but steady. The lasting effects of the poisoning would require ongoing medical monitoring for as long as I lived. But more than that, I was stronger. "I have something to show you both," my father said as we reached his car. A surprise. He drove us to our old family home, the one where Sandra had systematically poisoned me during those deceitful family dinners. I hesitated at the front door, memories of bitter-tasting drinks and hidden toxins flooding back. "Dad, I don't think I can." "Trust me, sweetheart," he said softly, opening the door. The interior had been completely transformed. The kitchen where Sandra had prepared her poison meals was gone, replaced by a bright, modern space with state-of-the-art appliances. The dining room, where I'd slowly been killed, had become a sunny sitting area. "I sold the other house," he explained. "Too many bad memories. I thought we could make new ones here, in the home you grew up in. If you want." I walked through the rooms, touching familiar walls, now painted in warm, welcoming colors. My old bedroom upstairs had been preserved but updated, ready if I ever needed it. "The security system is top of the line," Kate noted approvingly. "And I see cameras in the kitchen." My father nodded. "Never again," he said firmly. "No one will ever hurt my daughter in this house again." We ended up in the kitchen, where Kate immediately began examining the new coffee maker with its built-in water filter. My father pulled out 3 mugs, then hesitated. "Maybe we should stick to bottled water for now," he said uncertainly. I shook my head and stepped forward. "No, Dad. We can't live in fear forever." That's what Sandra would want. I prepared coffee for all of us, my hands steady as I poured. We sat at the new kitchen island, the afternoon sun streaming through windows that had once witnessed so much darkness. "I have news, too," I said, pulling out my laptop. "Remember how the investigation found other families Sandra had destroyed?" They nodded, and I opened a document I'd been working on for months. "I started a foundation," I explained, my voice filled with purpose, "for victims of medical abuse and their families. We're going to empower people to recognize the insidious signs, provide crucial legal support, and connect them with trustworthy, compassionate healthcare providers." My father's eyes filled with tears. "You're amazing. You know that? Taking something so horrible and turning it into help for others." "I had good examples," I said, smiling at both him and Kate, "people who taught me that the truth always comes out and that healing is possible." Kate raised her coffee mug. "To the Mitchell Family Foundation for Medical Justice, and to Emma, the strongest person I know." "To family," my father added, "real family who believe and protect each other." "To survival," I finished, clinking my mug against theirs. Later that evening, as we sat in the new living room planning the foundation's first fundraising event, I felt a deep sense of peace. Sandra had tried to destroy me, to tear apart my family and end my life. Instead, she'd inadvertently made us stronger, closer, and more determined to prevent others from suffering the same fate. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Martinez, who had agreed to serve on the Foundation's medical advisory board. "Just reviewed another case," she wrote. "Thanks to your story, we caught it early." She's going to be okay. I smiled, showing the message to my father and Kate. This, I realized, was our true victory. Not merely surviving, but transforming our harrowing ordeal into a shield, a beacon of protection for others. Sandra could spend her miserable years in prison plotting her futile revenge. I, however, would spend mine saving lives, rebuilding fractured trust, and illuminating the darkness she tried to cast. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the renewed house in hues of gold and lavender, casting long, benevolent shadows, I felt a profound sense of peace. We were safe. We were together. And we were, finally, healing. Sometimes, the most potent revenge isn't punishment. It's the defiant proof that you cannot break a spirit, no matter how relentlessly you try. If Emma's harrowing journey resonated with you, and you seek more tales of resilience, mystery, and the triumph of truth, make sure to subscribe to Echo Tales. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your comments below and tell us what part of Emma's story struck you the most.